Do you sometimes feel that you have a black hole in your chest and that life in itself does not really deliver enough excitement for you? Well, if so, you're not alone, and you'll see why in a moment, because today we are going to take a look at something called reward deficiency syndrome. Did you know that about 25% of people are born with a small gene variation, making it so that they have a bit lower baseline levels of dopamine than others? Yes, and this is called reward deficiency syndrome. You may, for example, have heard a few years ago that now researchers have found the quote-unquote alcoholic gene. Well, it was this exact gene variation they were talking about. However, people who have been following me for a while have probably already figured out that this is not just about alcohol. It's about all kinds of addictions. Yeah, so people with this gene variation have a higher risk of developing addictions than other people. Simply because if the reward center is not receiving enough input, you are genetically predisposed to be constantly craving, relentlessly searching for some way to compensate for the deficit. You have probably also heard the phrase, "I have an addictive personality type." Well, that could be another way of describing this very phenomenon. Now, before you start going into some kind of self-diagnosis panic mode here, let me reassure you, this is not a life sentence. But yes, I do admit, it is a bit unfair that some folks may have a less colorful emotional palette than others out there. Nature doesn't exactly hand out happiness evenly. But here are some tips for you if you suspect you might belong to this group. Number 1. Understand it is not dangerous. It's just a genetic predisposition to occasional mood dips and cravings due to a bit lower baseline levels of dopamine. Number 2. You should definitely do physical exercise. Running in particular gives those dopamine levels a workout, providing a natural high in a healthy way. Number 3, you always have to have some kind of goals you are working on. This is because of the gene variation. Thoughts like, "what's the point?" are more likely to start messing with you than with people who do not have this variation. But then if you have some goals you can work on, then those "what's the point" thoughts are less likely to start messing with you. Number 4, be cautious with potentially addictive activities or substances. Moderation is key, and with some things you might have to go even lower than moderation. Know yourself here. You have to accept the fact that life won't always feel fantastic, and that's okay. You can still enjoy life with lots of positive emotions, especially if you exercise and have goals. But also know that there will be days when ordinary life seems a bit gray and nothing really gets you going, and that's 100% okay. I just know I myself belong to the reward deficiency syndrome people, because I have always, my whole life, felt that normal life is just not enough, and so I have been gravitating towards online porn, alcohol, junk food, and so on. And once I gave up the porn, I started gravitating towards cold showers, not because I like them, but because I felt I needed that feeling I got after they were done. And sure enough, studies have shown that taking a cold shower can effectively elevate your dopamine levels for several hours following the cold water exposure. Yeah, so physical exercise and taking cold showers have been two things that have helped me a lot. And I think they can be wonderful tools for people with this gene variation. And lastly, remember now that this is not something that we should make into a bad thing or make a big deal out of. The increased cravings for stimuli we people in this group are having can just as well be turned into something positive if we direct it the right way. We can become maverick entrepreneurs, bold explorers, successful artists, and on and on. Just make sure to choose constructive ways of getting your rewards, like for example achieving goals or going on an adventure, instead of choosing destructive addictions. Now remember that overuse of cheap dopamine stuff can also cause a net effect of low dopamine levels, making you feel unmotivated and that life is gray and boring. And if you're interested in finding out if that is something that has been affecting you and what the current state of your dopamine system is, then you can take my free dopamine quiz using the link below. Now this quiz is only accessible for my email newsletter subscribers, and all you have to do to sign up is to use your best email address, and then the link to the quiz will be sent to your email inbox as a gift and reward to you for signing up to my email newsletter. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today. Consider subscribing for more, and together we will continue walking this amazing journey, the path of being a dopamine-focused warrior.